to Tech Time Today, a daily 10-minute tutorial on one tantalizing tech topic. I'm your host, Jeff Whelpley, and today we're going to be talking about Kubernetes. I know that it's gotten a bad rap among some web developers as being overly complicated, and to some degree that's true. But I want to at least give a pitch of why you should actually consider it um, if you have a non-trivial application and you want to kind of build for the future and that type of thing. That there are some complexities to it. I'm not going to get into every detail, but perhaps give you a little bit of a view of why I like it and why it is something that I kind of prefer now to use on a lot of the production quality apps that I build. Before we get started, make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, all that type of stuff. Really appreciate it. All right. So, talking about Kubernetes. The thing is that the complexity in my mind with Kubernetes is getting started. So, there's no doubt there's like, unfortunately, a huge uh, barrier to jump over when you get started. And I do think that it can take some time. The sort of hack that I did for that, which has helped tremendously, is to get somebody, an expert, who helped me to build out our infrastructure in Kubernetes with um, with something called Pulumi, which is a TypeScript-based code as infrastructure framework. With this episode, I'm going to keep this short, so I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a flavor for that. But let me share one thing, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is one of our part of our Pulumi infrastructure code, and what I did is a lot of the Kubernetes experts actually don't necessarily know TypeScript and don't necessarily know Pulumi per se, but they do understand a lot of the other infrastructure as code frameworks, and those can easily get translated to Pulumi. And so I sort of worked hand in hand with him to have our initial infrastructure set up. And so, when you look at like a lot of this code, um, this is for our staging environment in one of our test environments. On a line by line basis, it's just a lot of stuff there, and this is just like one of many different builder files that contain different policies, other things like that. Especially if you're not familiar with AWS and other cloud providers, some of the details that security works, for example. I mean, it definitely can be overwhelming, no doubt. But because it is in TypeScript, and I had an expert who is really good at this stuff to kind of set this up in the right way. It, I found, made it easier for me to start to learn it incrementally. So, like, I definitely initially, when he kind of generated a lot of this code, I couldn't tell you what everything was doing, and I still can't every line. But I've definitely gotten better over time as we've had to make changes, as we've kind of slowly evolved things over time. I've started to get a much better kind of understanding of stuff. So I guess that's the first thing that I would say is that yes, this is all complicated. The decisions for like, okay, I mean, this is just one of many different things. But when you're creating your node groups that are part of your Kubernetes cluster, I feel like there's a million different decisions. What instance types you pick, and like how do you adjust that over time, and how do you do scaling and all that type of stuff. And like with everything in technology, there isn't only one answer. But I found that having somebody who's an expert to kind of give you the initial view, and then as things change, and I'll show you the monitoring in a second, as you're monitoring things and seeing how things are working and not working, then you can figure out how to make adjustments over time. So that's, I guess, the first thing, which maybe isn't too helpful for some people who are on their own, but it perhaps is helpful for if you are at a company that has a budget and has you've been considering doing. I would definitely recommend not just doing it on your own, getting somebody in to help you initially. But then once you kind of have those initial kind of training wheels, um, it is not that bad. It is not that bad to kind of keep going, you from there. And the benefits, the huge, well, two big ones, I guess, in my mind, is that you're not tied to a particular cloud provider. So we, uh, have there's some things that we do that are cloud specific. That, some cloud provider specific services that we use, like SES and AWS and whatever. But a lot of that can be translated fairly easily when you're running on just like basic EC2 instances, in AWS. If, to use that as an example, uh, most of your stuff is in this abstraction layer, the Kubernetes abstraction layer. So you do have to start to understand Kubernetes, but that can translate to all the different providers, and that is the main benefit. And I over time I've definitely found that is very helpful. And so the one other thing I wanted to show is our monitoring tool, because in a general sense, we don't want to uh, have to log into the cloud provider console at all. So like even if you're deploying to Azure or to Google Cloud or to AWS, you don't want to have to go into the console if you don't want to. So there's other tools, Kubernetes related tools like this, but we use Lens, Lens, and Lens will connect to wherever your Kubernetes cluster is and provide you all the normal kind of monitoring and administrative tasks that you would want to do. And honestly, I found that this, besides being cloud agnostic, is better than when I've in the past had to go into the different cloud provider consoles. So I'm just, again, this is our staging environment. I'm picking out, our web, one of our services for like our website that hosts our web app, and all the different types of monitoring that you're probably used to for memory, CPU, etc. You could see our logs. I do like how it makes it really easy to get to a command shell. And then you can also do a lot of the administrative tasks from here. So just as an example, if I wanted to scale, if I wanted to remove this instance, if I wanted to scale up or scale down, if I wanted to change, this is the actual configuration of the service. So there's like all sorts of different things that you could do here administratively on the fly. And that's basically it. I mean, I not an in-depth look by any means, but maybe gives you a little bit of a flavor. You know, Kubernetes can be super um, intimidating, but I am literally part of a two-person development shop in my company, and we manage a fairly big Kubernetes cluster perfectly easily. And the only trick is that I do have a Kubernetes expert consultant that I pay kind of ad hoc when we have, from time to time, certain issues that come up. So as long as you have that, it's like no problem, and you get a lot of benefits out of it. So I would definitely recommend. That's it for today. Thanks a lot, and have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow.